In 3, 2, 1, recording.
So now I want to pick up on our conversations about themes, and I want to look from the participants, take them up into that structural, institutional space and level. So we're going from the individual to the general,
Yes.
right? And in some cases, abstract or pretty abstract.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a shift that happened where we stopped talking about just race in like a surface level way, and it went deep.
Yes.
Right. It went deep into systems. We
Yeah.
talked about access. We talked about money,
Yes.
access to media,
Yeah.
and even capitalism.
Yeah.
So
I like how you capitalism.
well, because whenever it happens, I don't know. You feel like in grad school,
Yeah.
somebody capitalism, and there's always you're like, oh boy, here we go. Right. So, what do you think? So, in that conversation, and again, we haven't gone back and looked at the data in our conversation. Where do you think what's the structure underneath? Where does it come down to? What did you notice in the data? What did you notice in your conversation with the participants?
That there are different systems. There's a micro system, there's a macro system, there's a meso system. One is more so on how the focus group was impacted individually. The other one is how they were impacted systematically, their families, involving their families, but also on a larger scale when it comes to their connections to institutions or concrete supports, so on and so forth. And one of the many things that came up was the lack of funds, the lack of funding when it comes to creativity, or it comes to supporting Black and brown like professionals or creatives or institutions. The lack of money, and what the root cause of that is. One of the focus group members said it was capitalism.
Yeah, and then everybody laughed.
Yeah, and it's absolutely the truth. Like, and we discussed how there were points in times where a lot of programs, a lot of resources, a lot of departments were funded. They were receiving funds from the government, but for whatever reason, it stopped. And we know that those funding sources were really essential to proliferating communities, Black and brown communities, particularly. And without those funding resources, a lot of neighborhoods was diminished. We talked about gentrification, and so on and so forth. And I think it all ties to capitalism. We see, like, we are where we are today because of capitalism.
I'd have to go back and do my own reading, and I have not recently, because there was you'll know, it became a cultural touchstone a moment when Ibram Kendi's How to Be Antiracist book came out, and there were some who critiqued that and said, but what about the capitalism, which sort of brings it up on like the economic system side. I want to say in the last year or two, and that may be dating myself, it probably could be longer, that there has actually been a turn within scholars and Kendi himself talking about that it's like that racism, capitalism is two sides of the same, right? Do you think that has sort of shown up? Is that what you're kind of describing, what you're seeing?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think also it ties into, because I don't know if I answered the first part, it ties into like the integration conversation where we had that shifted the room, where a lot of people thought, oh yeah, let's integrate. And so, but no one talked about like, the trauma that would possibly cause individuals for going into spaces that they may not necessarily be welcome. No one prepared the world for those integrations. No one had socialization classes, life skill classes, and not necessarily that you would need that, but I think, knowing what I know now, absolutely you need that. Like, there are even Black studies now. There are urban education majors now and degrees now where they solely teach you how to be knowledgeable, how to be experienced, how to be skillful when working with certain individuals. And there are populations and demographics, because no one prepared the world for that. We went from literally being torn on different sides, living in two separate worlds, to now putting both worlds together. So when you think about the stories the historic stories that come up, how, Black children and their families were harassed walking to schools that they were now accepted to go into. That's racism never went away. It still exists. And for people who may challenge it and say, oh, it doesn't exist, it's not happening. Well, why do you think there's not many Black and brown professors or individuals sitting in front of you when it comes to lectures? They may be, depending on the institution, they may be in positions of staff, but I don't think they're dominating, the realm of actually being educators, unless you go to a HBCU. And we talked about,
you did talk about, because a couple of your participants,
they went to HBCUs.
Exactly.
Yep. And so they talked about the privilege that they had, because privilege looks different at HBCUs than it does at predominantly white institutions. So the privilege they had was being able to be educated by people who looked like them, people who had that firsthand experience like them, who can relate to them.
People don't like to talk about it because it makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah,
but it's important.
You need to. And one thing I will say, like, sidebar, that's why I appreciate you, and I'm happy that you're my.
I'll take it.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you're my advisor, because you're not afraid to have those tough conversations.
Good Lord, no.
Yeah, you're not afraid to have those tough conversations, and you're so excited about it. And just from where I was sitting in the same spot, just seeing your reaction, to the conversations, you like, I want more. Like, we could have gave you popcorn, we could have gave you like a whole setup. Like, you were in the experience with us. And I think a lot of individuals, they don't want to be a part of the experience, and they don't know, and they wonder, like, well, how can I be a part of change? Well, what does that look like? And sometimes it's just being who you are, being yourself, but being a part of the conversation, like, letting the conversation happen, figuring out how you can add to the experience, how you can add value, even where you've just always been encouraging throughout this whole research process. That's what we need. That's what higher education, that's what education is about. It's not once have you tried to belittle me,
yeah, absolutely.
Like, or like, make it seem like my ideas was just too much. You fed right into it. And I think, that's the style, and that's like what's needed in these classrooms and in these spaces.
I think see how this lands for you. I think one way of doing that is also not doing anything. It's getting out of the way.
Yes.
Right. And
absolutely.
I'll be honest. I see a large chunk of maybe not large, a part of my job that I don't talk about a lot or thematize a lot is holding space and keeping a boundary so that y'all can do what you got to do.
Yeah.
To what you were just describing, that's exactly. That was on purpose. Yeah. I was like, no.
But I think that's who you are. I think that's who you are. Even when we have, we get so sidetracked, but it still matters. It still matters. Okay. Even when I think about how you facilitate the cohort, like when we have our meetings and like, you're present. And you're very much there. You're doing what you're supposed to do, but you're also allowing us to have that autonomy. Like, you're allowing us to be the advocates of our own lives,
and
like
connect with each other.
Like, and that's what needed. And I think a lot of individuals, a lot of professors, a lot of people in these professions, they don't know how to do it. And I think what one of your superpowers is your creativity. You get it. Like, you get it. And your creativity and your style and who you are, it just allows you to have that level of leadership. And I don't know, I just think that we need more leaders like you. I wouldn't mind you being in front of the class. I'm pissed off that I didn't have you until towards the end.
Do you know how many people?
Oh my gosh! Like, come on now, Westchester. Like, I don't know if he want more classes to teach, but hello,
I know.
Yeah. Like, but it's a representation of who you are, and I think if it's only one Matthew, but I think if more individuals allow themselves to be inspired by you, then that would definitely shift like what we see now at predominantly white institutions. Yes.
No. Okay. Well, that was very, very kind. That's very, very thankful. my heart is full.
Oh, good.
and thank you for thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
If we and I mean the big we.
Yes.
Not just you, me.
Yes.
And not just you, me, and the participants, but we.
Yeah.
When people hear about this whole process, they watch the focus group, they hear about you talking about the findings.
Yes.
I don't want to say a call to action, but the phrase call to action comes to mind. What do you think your results, your themes demand of us, demand of our institutions, demand about our language?
Yep.
I'll be honest. I have a couple ideas because I can tell you about how I've been changed and moved from the process. Sure, yeah.
Oh.
But I want to know what do you think? Because we're still talking at the system level. But what do you think that is demanded from your results?
Having those tough conversations, being able to have like literally listen, but not listen to respond, but listen to really understand and to know like what we'll do, like what should we do next? How do we not necessarily remedy the situation, but how do we fix our wrongs? And if we can't fix the wrongs, how do we sometimes dismantle it? What needs to go? You already know how I feel about tenure.
Yeah. We've talked about
it. I think a lot of shifts needs to happen structurally. A lot of infrastructure needs to, be a little, or a lot of tweaked, altered, removed. But I also think we need to also envision, if I can say this, like envision a world without creatives and how devastating.
You asked this.
Yeah. And how devastating that would be. And if you think about all of the things creatives have done and contributed to the world we live in today, and you appreciate the innovation that comes into play, then I think you should really see, what does that mean for higher education? And how do we want to structure these classrooms? How do we want curriculums to look? Like, what experience are we trying to offer from a higher educational standpoint? Yes, like, degrees are important and all of that other stuff, but if individuals are feeling like they don't matter, or they can't show up like, as their authentic selves, and you have them excelling in this landscape or in this avenue of work, but you don't have them excelling in who they are as an individual, that's the issue. You missed the mark. You didn't do your job. I'm sorry. You didn't do it. And so I think seeing people as a whole person, when they show up to the classroom, is something we need to work on. Having those tough conversations, spending more time on investing and pouring into scholars, into professionals, into staff, into educators, into professionals, is needed as well. I think maybe revising these professional development that we have. I'm not saying that some of the topics don't matter, but some of them aren't equally as important as the other stuff that we need to talk about. Because of course we're going to talk about treating everyone like this and treating everyone like that, but you're just talking about it.
And it still somehow misses the mark.
It always misses the mark.
Drives me.
It always misses the mark.
Bonkers.
Like people talking about DEI, but I don't see no DEI from the presenters.
Right.
There's no DEI with the presenters.
And we've now lived in. I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
We've now lived into this moment where it has been completely flipped, and the language has been stolen.
Yeah.
And we're all just looking around going, what just happened?
Yeah. And also, like, what are we standing for? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are we like, what are we standing for? Like, have some fight in you. I appreciate those colleges who fought back when it came time to, I don't know where they are now, but when it came time to, get rid of DEI, or when it came time to, not give up the individuals who attended the schools that may not be like documented. Like, fight for your students. Stop just thinking about, the institution as a place that we need to save. Like, we wouldn't be an institution if we didn't have our students. And that's just the reality of it. If we are not shaping like the future generation and individuals like ourselves to be the best that we can be professionally, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And there's so many people who leave home, who leave classrooms, who feel unfulfilled. Even now, like I'm getting my degree. I graduate in May, but I'm still thinking about what's next. I'm still processing, like, is higher ed meant for me? Am I going to get a job?
Can I see
myself here? Like, I'm even second guessing it. And that should not be the case after all of the hard work and effort we've put into this whole experience.
That, I think, I just want to pick up on that because it's like you pulled it right from my head.
Yeah.
That I was struck. You see it. I was struck, and it has stayed with me.
Yes.
From being a part of, and I know not on campus, in the room, in the space, with the focus groups, the importance of the cost for your participants.
Yep.
The importance of showing up.
Yep.
We said that when we walked through the door today.
Yep.
The importance of showing up.
Yes.
I hope this will land, of being seen, that it is important that you, as you, are seen and recognized, because you have no idea who is on the other side of the camera, who's on the other side of the feed looking at it.
Yep.
And the difference that can make when people see and go, that could be me, or I see myself in there. And that could make, literally in some cases, make life and death differences in people's lives. That has stuck with me. It has completely, like, I was on one path up until early February when we were working together. We had the focus group, and then my path changed because this whole process, and you have changed how I think about this whole process, this whole conversation. I was still in the same direction, but I have a new and different appreciation for this work, for this space, for showing up, for the cost that has to be carried. That whole piece. When my mind goes quiet, those moments when you're in bed at night, or when you first wake up in the morning, it's these kinds of things that I'm thinking about, and it's because of this process.
And that's what I wanted the research to do. I didn't know I didn't know is that it was going to be this impactful already. Like, I think one of the not even one of them, all of them, they felt like it was life changing. They felt like they got emotional when they went home. They sent us emails thanking us for the opportunity, because not oftentimes, first of all, they was never asked to be participants in the research. They never saw themselves as participants in the research. They never thought that they would be at that point, but we gave space and opportunity for that. And one of the participants said in the focus group that we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. That has stuck with me, and she needs to put it on the shirt.
I know. And it needs to be, that's the clip. There's the caption.
Yes, because it's the truth.
We are our ancestors'
wildest dreams.
And that just makes you tear up. How does that not hit your soul? How does that not hit your heart?
And we are. Like, and anyone could apply that. And that's what I want the classroom to be. That's what I want education to represent. That there was a point in time where we couldn't coexist. It was illegal for us to coexist. And so many people wanted where we are today. And a lot of people take that for granted, and they don't understand the fight that other individuals have to put in daily to show up to be in these spaces, even today for me, but we have to keep going, because I am my ancestors' wildest dream. And I can't disappoint them. I don't want to disappoint myself.
And they're looking.
They're everywhere. Yes. And so for the people that's watching, we want you to know that you are your ancestors' wildest dreams. No matter where you are in life, no matter where you're watching this from, is making me emotional, but you matter, and there are spaces for you where you can talk, where you can share, where you can feel at home, where you can be welcome, where you can be nurtured, where you can be rejuvenated, where you can be replenished, where your creativity matters. So don't be afraid to be fearless, and if you are afraid, go fearful anyway, and just trust the process, because you are your ancestors' wildest dreams. Yeah.
That's it. That's it right there. That's it.